operate in truth, right? Operate in truth. Tell the truth.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Gator Truth. This is the review of the Gators win 55-0 over the Long Island Sharks to begin the 2025 Florida football season. It was a fun night in the swamp, sometimes a little bit, I don't want to say worrisome, but sometimes a little bit annoying towards the beginning of the game. But overall, a fun night, great game for the Gators. We're going to look back at what I said I wanted to see from this game because, of course, really in this game, there's some things to take from it, some things to not. And so we'll take a look. We'll see how the Gators did based on things I wanted to see. There are definitely some good things, some things where it's like, okay, this could be better. But overall, again, a good night and how you want to start the season for the Gators. Before we jump in, I did release a 5 big games of the week with my picks. So for those that check that out Saturday morning, thank you. I did go 3-2. Florida State did pull off that upset against the Crimson Tide. And then LSU, credit to them, did beat Clemson on the road in Death Valley. So that is definitely a credit I can give to them, setting up what should be a great matchup week 3 between the Gators and the Tigers. With that said, let's go ahead. Let's jump into it on this game. To start off, from the offense, I wanted to see 300 passing yards combined. I didn't want to see any sacks. And really, will a little bit of crowd on this reached out to me right after the game, said, hey, looks like we're close. I think we got to 300. I go, we actually got to 251. And I do think had we not tried to scream the Sharks to death in the first half, and we'll get to more on that in a sec, I do think that the Gators could have gotten to those 300 passing yards, but 251, not bad. Also was a little shocked to see Tramel Jones get the entire second half. Sounds like he is the number 2 QB, but I am happy to see that because it's someone who I think we can build around for the future. Of course, DJ still here is the future right now, but having someone behind him that just has a little bit more dynamic to them, looks like they're going to be a quality backup till it's their time to come in and step up and shine, does help a little bit more than a journeyman in Harrison Bailey and a former walk-on from the Ivy League in Aiden Warner. So good to see that. A little bit short on that. We did give up 1 sack in the game, so not quite where I wanted to be. But again, lots of rotation through the game, including in the first half with that offensive line. Many people I've seen on X commenting and also on a few message boards commenting about this offensive line. Very few, I think, noticed that we were having the backup guards playing starting in the 3rd, 4th drive. In fact, I noticed that the game when I saw Damian George and saw Kearney or Kanaje Harris. Sorry, Kearney was on the field. Kanaje Harris go running onto the field for one of those field goal attempts on those drives. And I was like, oh man, look at look at them running onto the field. That must mean we had backups in. And then also I've seen a little bit of grief given that line in passing situations. So if you're watching on YouTube, you'll see 2 clips here real quick. If you're listening, I'll try and describe them best I can. The first clip you're going to see is one time where DJ had to leave the pocket due to pressure. What you're going to see on this is the play, and I don't like these plays. I've talked about them before, but I'm going to show a video of it just so you can see. We pulled the left guard, the guard on the left side of the line, to come around and basically block on the outside of the right tackle. I don't like this because against better defensive ends, they're probably going to get to the quarterback before the offensive guard gets there. But also, I will say this: Cam Waits does make the play, does kind of block that guy. However, Hayden Hansen, the tight end, is back there like trying to find a guy in case to get through to block, and totally doesn't see this guy come through who drives DJ out of the pocket. So if you're watching on YouTube, you're going to see this. And quick 7-second clip, you see there's Waits, and then you see the guy come around, and you can see Hansen around the 40. They're ready to block someone, but he never saw the guy coming around. And then the next clip I'm going to show, again, this isn't really to knock on anyone, but it's more of a defense of the offensive line, because I know the offensive line took some heat. And I'm not saying it's totally uncalled for, but sometimes it's good to look at what actually happened. Sometimes it's, hey, we had our backup guards in, like on that play, even though the backup guards weren't the problem, or we had different substitutes in. And then there's this play that I'm going to show you. It is our starting offensive line. You're going to see the offensive line does everything they should. One of the tight ends, Tony Livingston, engages a guy. The guy throws Livingston off, and he hits DJ Lagway. That is not on the offensive line. And this is a play where I have heard people blaming the line, and it's really not. So if you're watching on YouTube, I'm going to hit that up right now. You're going to see it coming on from the left side of that line. There's the engagement. There's the hit. And let's go ahead. I will play that one more time if you're watching. You'll see Livingston come across the line, hit, and then the guy hits DJ on the throw. This is one time he threw deep. Of course, probably a little better that he didn't make a better throw. It does show 3 guys around the receiver. It appears he was throwing to. So maybe that was a blessing in disguise. But with that said, offense, 300 passing yards, not quite there. We did a lot of, in my opinion, unnecessary play action. A lot of screens, especially at the beginning. And one of the reasons you can tell it was a lot of screens and a lot of stuff we put on paper before. Eugene Wilson, dynamic guy, 5 catches, -4 yards. We got to utilize him and other people behind the line. I do want to say you see a lot of screen game early in the first half, early in the second quarter, but then you see us start going further. I didn't need to see, chucking bombs all the time. However, I wanted to see the intermediate passing game, which, of course, is the number 3 thing I had up. So good time to talk about that, getting your playmakers in space. Didn't see much of that, at least for the first quarter and a half, and the offense kind of struggled against an overmatched opponent because we kept going behind the line, kept doing things that did not benefit our team to the maximum potential. However, Tramel Jones comes in, and he actually has a lot of those 0, 1, 3-step drop. And for those that don't know, 0 drop, it's like catch, release. 1 step, catch, plant your back foot, essentially 1-step drop, and then release and throw it to a guy. 3-step drop, catch, 1, 2, 3, throw. So really quick things versus catch the ball, fake a handoff, look, throw. And you can see the time difference there and how much offensive lines have to block, how quickly a defense has to react. And he hit a lot of those and actually had a pretty good night, averaging 7.3 yards per attempt. And so I will take that. And I think with our first team players, if we see more of that being called for Lagway, we're going to see a lot more explosive offense. I do also want to give DJ Lagway and the offense credit on this. Speaking of passing, very rarely last year did we pass inside the 5. In fact, it almost made it too predictable at times that we were going to run, and it kind of hampered us again at times. Not always, but definitely at times we were hampered by that tendency. DJ Lagway, 3 touchdown passes last night, and they were there in the they were there in the 10 inside the red zone. And that was great to see, just that little bit extra in the offense. There is, the throw to Wilson for a touchdown, which is, again, funny. Wilson got a touchdown, and he's averaging -4 yards. Or not averaging, has -4 yards receiving with that touchdown pass. You had the excellent back shoulder throw. I don't know how J. Michael Sturtevant saw it, but he saw it and made a great catch. And then also Hayden Hansen there on the sideline, another good catch. What's funny about that one, you do have Vernell Brown Jr. or the third running with his arm up, signaling, throw it to me. And the ball ends up going to Hansen. Either way, we scored a touchdown. Just something I noticed live that gave me a bit of a chuckle. And then another thing I was hoping to see from this Gators offense, as I'll go ahead and pull this back up, is that I wanted to see 250 yards in the rushing game. Jaden Ball, Jacoby Jackson, 5+ yards per carry. I did get part of what I wanted to see. I will say that. Jaden Ball, 104 yards on 9 carries. That's 11.6 yards per carry. The guy looked dangerous. Jacoby Jackson, only 3.4 yards per carry, 7 carries, 24 yards. Some of that is there's at least one carry where it's pretty predictable what we're doing, and there was a stack box and we ran into it anyways. That's not going to help anyone out, but I do think he'll be better. I wanted to see 250 plus rushing yards. We ended up with only 200. Again, pretty good night on that, but I think some of that comes down to just some of the offensive struggles in the first half, which I do contribute in many ways to the trying to screen past the other team to death, and they were ready for it because we've put on paper before we've had a QB in the last 2 years have 80% of their passes be 9 yards or less, with I believe it was half of those being at the line of scrimmage or further back. So something they could have studied, and it's easy to eliminate if you know it's there. Miami did that last year, but of course talent wins out. And we also had some fantastic plays. DJ Lagway, deep ball to Vernell Brown Jr., who makes that excellent one-handed catch, pulls it in, or Vernell Brown the third. I don't know why I keep saying junior. I guess I have his dad on the brain. But anyways, makes that excellent one-handed grab. He averaged 26 yards a catch. TJ Abrams, 2 catches, 26 yards per catch. So 2 guys, great games. And then also it was good to see J. Michael Sturtevant get a few catches, although only 2 for 7. One of those was that amazing touchdown catch where I'm not sure how he saw the ball. But again, overall good offensive performance. I think it could be better. Some of that I also put down to DJ Lagway looking a bit rusty. I mean, he didn't participate too much in spring, was not 100% participation until August 18th. And here we are 13 days later. This is recorded on August 31st, and he's playing in a game. So you expect some of that, but he seemed to work it out anyways while he was going. So let's go ahead and let's look at what I wanted from the defense. First thing I wanted, 4+ sacks. We didn't get there. We didn't have any sacks at all. But I will say this, they only had 11 pass attempts. That's kind of hard to do, especially if you're running a few quick passes like they did. So, I mean, there's a little bit of an asterisk why we didn't do that there. It wasn't like they're sitting back at all the time of day in the world. So credit to our team on that. And then also another thing I wanted to see was to allow under 200 yards for the game. And with that under 200 yards for the game, I was hoping that the starters would allow less than 100. Well, good news, everybody. The total yards was only 87 for the Sharks. And most of those came on a late drive, only crossing the 50 once. Now, I did think on that drive, this is where we give up the points with some walk-ons and some backups, and we didn't. So that was good to see. I was like, okay, this is where we end up. It was 48-0 at that point. I had actually figured we might give up something, which is okay when we've got the backups. And I figured I'm like, in my pick 'em, I can't pick Gators 46+. Well, You know what? It's a wrong pick by me. I'll admit that. But at that point, I'm like, this is where they get it. And then we'll just run the ball a few times, be out of here. And then next thing we know, we have to stop and we go and score a touchdown in the final 30 seconds. So lots of fun with that. And then also I said shutout through at least 3 quarters again, because I thought, hey, we might give up a touchdown when we heavily cycle, get guys some game experience. And we didn't. Again, like I said, that was good. So overall defense, A+, great job from the defense. And of course, I said, I've got a few things I want to see from the team. And for the team, things I wanted to see was, first thing, no major injuries and protect those recovering. We didn't see any major injuries from the game. That is great. As far as protecting those recovering, Caleb Banks mentioned him actually in the preview episode, saying if he's not 100%, I'd sit him out. I'd rather, him get a little bit more healthier than risk re-aggravating something. And now we've got an issue for LSU. Well, Caleb Banks didn't play. Dallas Wilson, same thing, didn't play. Hayden Mizell didn't play. LJ McCray, another big-time defensive player, didn't play. I'm not concerned yet. It's okay if these guys miss LIU. It gives other guys a chance to get more reps, more experience, and develop a little bit more depth. I mean, if Dallas Wilson is playing, if Aiden Mizell is playing, who knows if we see, VB3 Vernell Brown III do what he did and look like he could be a dynamic playmaker for us. Do we see him as much because there's more rotation at receiver? Who knows? So things like that also tend to sometimes help out, and also makes opposing defenses have to prepare for one more thing. So I will definitely take that protection and no major injuries. And of course, we're talking about as well good play from backups. We saw plenty of great play from the backups. I mean, Jones came in, moves the offense. Overall, we see the quick passing game that anyone who's listened to me since 2022 knows that's something I want to see, because it does help protect the O-line. It does help protect the quarterback. And if you can hit some quick passes, it'll end up opening up the run game a little bit more, which will also help get the deep ball going as well. And then finally, I wanted to see few penalties. I didn't want to see any stupid procedure penalties like we've seen with 11 men on, or 12 men on the field, 10 men. Last guy's running on, all sorts of craziness. We didn't see any of those. We had 0 penalties. I don't know how many times I've actually seen the Gators go through any game, much less the season opener, with 0 penalties. So credit to the Gators on that. Definitely happy about no special teams penalties, which was definitely one thing I noted in my slide for those that watch on YouTube. For those not, no special teams penalties was on that. I do want to say as well, Bryce Thornton, 2 fumble recoveries. If you had Bryce Thornton on your bingo card as the player who would score the first touchdown for the Gators this season, please let me know what lottery numbers to play, because I don't think we would have seen that coming. I also found it just kind of fun that a safety somehow got fumble recoveries twice behind the line, so that's pretty cool. And yeah, it was a fun night in the swamp. Got to see plenty of fun people. Got to see someone I've not seen 7-8 years, so good times had by all. Listen, there's not a lot of, prediction for the future you can take away from this game, but you can at least say the Gators overall look good. Were there some issues? Yeah, hopefully they get cleaned up, but 55-0 is a great fun day in the swamp and a good stepping stone. Now we've got USF coming to town. USF, of course, with the win over Boise State on Thursday night, kicking off the first official week of college football, or week 1 of college football, I guess we could say. And then next week, coming to the swamp to take on Florida, 4:15. We'll preview that game later this week. And with that said, everybody, thank you all for listening. And as always, go Gators.